So this is a TFT Dash update video. This is the first time I've actually created or made the TFT Dash officially work on another bike. So this is a TFT Dash installed on a Honda VTR1000, otherwise known as a Firestorm. The reason I've chosen this bike is because I have this bike, and this is my other bike in my garage. I have two bikes that I own. One's a Fazer 1000, the other's a Firestorm. So I thought, let's see how feasible it is to try and get the TFT Dash working on the Firestorm. And it turns out that the wiring is not too dissimilar from the Fazer. There are some differences, but you know, they're easy to account for. So let's just go for a run through with how it's all hooked up, shall we? So it's the same TFT Dash that I ship for the Fazer. So as you can see, my Fazer's here, and it hasn't got a dashboard on it at the moment, but I have my Firestorm here, and I've adapted my TFT Dash for use on the Firestorm. And how I've done that is, so for starters, let's just have a look at the back here. So at the back of the TFT Dash is the standard Fazer power, or the standard Fazer 16-pin plug. That wasn't power; it's completely wrong. Let me see if I can get this off here, so I can just show it off better, because there are some changes needed to get this dash working on this bike. And I get so many messages and emails asking me if I do this TFT Dash for different bikes and you know, all that, and you know, and the answer is probably yes. But the reason I don't do that is because I don't have access to the bike in question, and in this case I have access to the bike in question. So I've had this bike for over a year, and so it's given me time to just study the electronics, and they're not too dissimilar from the Fazer. But anyway, what I've done is I've created this plug, this little adapter plug, which basically takes a 16-pin plug that's used on the Fazer and probably a few other bikes, and I've had to fabricate some Honda plugs. So on the Firestorm, there's this little grommet down here, waterproof thing, and this is where the original Honda plugs would have connected into, and I fabricated these to fit over these and fit over the 9-pin and 6-pin connectors that are there, and you know, and wide them into the correct pins on the 16-pin connector on the TFT Dash on the Fazer. So with that done, there's a few changes are necessary. So physically mounting the thing is a bit different, because on the Fazer there's 3 holes positioned like that, and I've designed the TFT Dash like that. So I've designed the TFT Dash so it mounts perfectly on the Fazer, but without making too many changes, I can basically replicate some brackets, because the Honda Firestorm has mounting holes, sort of difficult to see on camera, but there's a mount there, there's a mount there, and there's a mount at the bottom as well. So I've made these little brackets that will sort of extend the existing sort of Fazer brackets to mount onto them. So with the aim of trying to make this dash multi-bike, multi-purpose and all that. Right, so anyway, with that all said and done, that's how it connects up. And so this is my dash, by the way, so it looks a bit grubby and scruffed because it's seen many miles. So I'll now switch on the ignition. There we go. So it's about 10 seconds to boot up. It'll come up with the Firestorm logo. And there's the dash booted. So yeah, so I've modified, so a few differences here from the Fazer. Miles per gallon and range, I'm not sure if I'm going to have to keep those. This is still development phase at the minute, so I don't know if I'm going to keep these, because miles per gallon and range, they were sketchy at best even on the Fazer, and it's a best guess because I had a reading of how much fuel was in the tank on the Fazer, because the Fazer has a variable fuel sensor in it. So whereas the Firestorm has a fuel switch, so when the fuel is low on the Firestorm, it literally just triggers a switch saying fuel's low. There's no indication of how much fuel is in the tank, as you only just get an indication of when the fuel is low or not. So this little feature I had here, miles per gallon and range, I may have to take that away. I could keep it, but it would mean that it would be estimated based on how many miles you've done since the fuel light came on, basically. And I could do that. It would be a helpful number to see, I suppose. But yeah, I'm still gonna work on that. So that might be taken away. Obviously, got the everything's working at the top. So we've got neutral. So if I put my bike into gear, that will. Oh no, that's a side stand. If I put my bike into gear, there we go. So that will go off, and if I put it into neutral, no, that's first, and there you go, that's neutral. Oil pressure. Now that should be lighting up, as otherwise it isn't. That's, yeah, because on the old dash it lights up when the engine's not started. So yeah, I have to look at that. Indicators, left and right. High beam, that doesn't work on mine because I've rewired my high beam and my headlights to bypass the wiring on the bike, because I was having issues with LEDs, so ignore that. And right, so I want to go through the menu features on the dash. So everything's configurable. So at the moment, so yes, I've got the engine coolant temperature working. So at 7 degrees. Yeah, I've not ridden my bike today, and if I look at my watch, yeah, that's about right. It's about 7 degrees in here. So yeah, 7-8 degrees. Cool. You've got a menu thing, so you can reset trip one. There's 2 trip settings on this. You've got control setup, which basically tells you, you can configure how you want the controls, whether you want the left button to be the right or the right button to be the left. It's up to you, so you can choose how you want that. You can set the units, so speed, range, consumption, temperature, tire pressure. So yes, this dash does support tire pressures, and it talks, there's a very specific kit, or 2 specific kits that are available on Amazon, and if you're interested, I'll see the links. They're on the website as well, but there are 2 kits that this dash works with and talks to with regards to tire pressure. So what happens is that there's a receiver that plugs into the back here, because at the back of this dash I provide a USB port. That USB port is used for dash updates, so software updates, which I usually ship on the website. But also, if you want to monitor your tire pressures on your bike, there's a TPMS kit that is used for cars, but I've adapted it for use on bikes. So there's a receiver that can plug into that USB port, which I've just shown you, and you can use 2 of the sensors in the kit, stick them onto your wheels, and you will receive your tire pressures. So that's how that works. So yeah. So just going through all of the options here. So control setup, I've gone through units. Set time is a fairly obvious. You set the time on the dash. The time is maintained by a small battery. So I think I'm an hour ahead, but there is a compartment right here at the back of the dash here. And it says there, CR2032. It's maintained by that small battery. It's not maintained by the bike's battery. For various reasons, I decided not to have that maintained by the bike's battery. So it's maintained by a tiny little CR2032 watch battery type thing. So that's that. There's ambient light setup. So this allows you to configure when the dash will switch to night mode. So this is an interesting feature. So you can see up here on the top of the dash there is a light sensor, and if you can see the values on the screen, the current light level, if I put my finger over the top, you can see the current light level go down. If I release my finger, the current light level goes up. So this enables you as the owner or to configure which light level it should switch to, the night theme or the day theme. So yes, and this depends very much how you've mounted the dash in the bike. So this will be mounted, I've currently not got my windscreen on, but there'll be a windscreen above here, and that will affect the amount of light coming into the dash. So that's why I've allowed that to be configurable. So different, you can get tinted screens and you can get clear screens, you can get whatever, you can, it all affects this reading, and that's why I've made it configurable. So there's this switch to night below, and that's when the light level gets below a certain value, switch to the night theme. When it's above that value, go to the day theme. So yeah, that's basically that. That's how that works. There is speed correction. So the TFT Dash has a built-in speedo healer. So this is a percentage correction. So if you've changed your sprockets on your bike, you've gone for a sprocket higher on the front or the rear or whatever you've done, and you know how the difference to set the speedometer, then you set it here. So you either set it minus or plus a percentage in any direction, and that's how you do that. There is also a display theme option. So here we are, the TFT Dash has display options. So you can go for the default. There's different, these are basically just color themes. I'm noticing on the Firestorm Facebook group that color and the colors of the bike seem to be a topic of conversation. So yeah, so if you know there's some different color themes that you can specify. I'm not saying anything against yellow bikes, but if you want a yellow theme, there's a yellow theme in here for yellow Firestorm owners, and you guys will love that. Right, gear indicator setup. Now this is a bit, I haven't set this up here for this bike, but this is currently, the values you're seeing here are Fazer values. So front sprocket 16, rear sprocket 44. But if you've changed your sprockets and you've gone for anything different that's than stock, put those values in here, because then that will affect how the gear indicator works. And yes, there's a gear indicator on this dash, because when you stick it into gear and start riding, this neutral light becomes a gear indicator, and it tells you which gear you're in. And that's a calculated gear indicator. It's done based on math, based on your engine RPM and your speed. So it works it out based on those two things. That's why it's so important for you to tell it if you've changed your sprockets, because if you don't tell it that, it can't work out the correct ratio between engine RPM and speed, in order to work out your gear. So that's how that works. Coolant fan setup, ignore that one. That's a very Fazer specific option. On the Fazer, the coolant fan, strangely enough, is controlled by the clocks. On lots of other bikes, and most other bikes, this is not the case, including the Firestorm. And yeah, this unfortunately won't be available. Although, as cool as it is to be able to control the temperature at which your fan would come on, and that is available on the Fazer, this is something that the clocks just don't control on the Firestorm. So it's I think it's just done based on the thermostat, or there's something else somewhere on the bike that controls when the fan comes on. So I'm going to take that out. TPMS setup. So this is if you've decided to go on Amazon or eBay and buy the TPMS kit, you can configure which sensors, because out of the kit that you're using. So typically I advise 2 and 4, which is just the left ones, and then you can configure at which point and how low your tires have to get before it triggers a warning on the dash. And yeah, that's that. So that is pretty much it. There's a run through of TFT Dash. Yeah, so yes, it's yeah, nicely working on the Firestorm. Probably like to take it for a couple of test rides, but yeah, that's it's looking good. I think for orders, I'm not going to supply this adapter cable. So at the moment I have an adapter cable here, which connects, basically is a adapter from a VTR to a Fazer 1000 at the minute. But I think I will just abolish this and just have the wires coming out and then going to the specific bike connectors that connect into here. So yeah, so there we go. Yeah, because that just plugs into the wiring loom, and you've got your stuff, you got everything there. So apologies for the very rough and ready video, but that's it.